Good morning, everyone. And before we begin, can I remind members that social distancing measures are in place in the chamber and across the Holyrood campus. So please take care to observe these measures over the course of today's business. And the first item of business is members' business debate on motion 23326 in the name of Rachel Hamilton on understanding the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on loneliness and social isolation. And this debate will be concluded without any questions being put. We are a bit pushed for time today, so please stick to the timings. And I call on Rachel Hamilton to open the debate for up to 7 minutes, please.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I want to first thank all members who signed my motion and for helping me bring this debate to the Chamber today. On the day that Parliament finishes up and we turn to Christmas, it is absolutely right that we debate loneliness and social isolation. Loneliness has a negative impact on the mental health of a third of the adults in Scotland, and that's quite astounding. At this time of year, it is far more pronounced than at any time of the year. The long, dark winter nights, cold days, and now the COVID pandemic has exacerbated the situation. We now face a crisis which is on the precipice of tipping in the wrong direction. I'm sure many of us watched in shock, sadness and disappointment at the announcements last Saturday as restrictions were tightened over Christmas. For many older and vulnerable people, I cannot begin to imagine the distress and upset caused when they learned that Christmas is effectively cancelled or scaled back for many parts of the country. And these new restrictions will be felt acutely for care home residents and their families. And listening to Radio Scotland this morning, I heard people that I know phoning in, talking about the distress over not seeing their families over Christmas, especially those who are in care homes. And it was really hard to listen to. According to Age Scotland, over 150,000 over 65s in Scotland expect to feel lonely over the festive season. And I suspect that figure will be higher this year, sadly. We know the devastating impact it can have on mental and physical health. As my motion mentions, it's as bad as the effects of smoking or obesity. As we debate here today, we must ask ourselves, what damage is this doing to our loved ones and those who are alone? If I may for a moment, I would like to thank the charities throughout the pandemic that have been instrumental in helping tackle the rise in loneliness and isolation. Age Scotland, MS Society, Glasgow's Golden Generation, the Salvation Army and many more have worked tirelessly to help older, vulnerable people who are experiencing social isolation. I want to especially thank the work of the British Red Cross, not only for their research today into loneliness and their assistance with the debate, but also the tremendous efforts that they've shown during the pandemic. Their volunteers worked selflessly to help those in need. We saw volunteers helping with food parcels and running a support line to help people cope with feelings of loneliness, mild depression, isolation and grief after bereavement. Now they are continuing their fantastic work by assisting St John's Ambulance to roll out the new COVID-19 vaccine. In my own constituency, the local group created a coronavirus resilience calendar which pointed people in every town and village to the right support. It was completely invaluable to me, to my constituents and to my parliamentary team in helping us to get support to the people quickly. And we owe you a huge debt of gratitude. So not only has their help been invaluable during the pandemic, their research has power to shape policy. The Red Cross's Lonely and Left Behind report, which I mentioned in my motion, published findings and recommendations based on evidence it gathered on loneliness throughout lockdown. It found that 41% of UK adults felt lonelier than before the pandemic, and 35% of UK adults are concerned that their loneliness will get worse. In these winter months, with renewed stricter restrictions, sadly, this will be the case. The report explored experiences of people who'd recently been or were continuing to shield and isolate. An overriding theme was the lack of face-to-face contact and a reluctance to admit that they were lonely to friends and family. The experiences of the people surveyed are just a snapshot of a widespread issue that exists not only in the UK but across the world. Whilst there can be immediate short-term fixes such as outdoor physical exercise or social prescribing, for many it can be difficult to participate in outdoor activities. Some people don't have a garden and some people are not physically able to take a walk or a run. One of the recommendations where work has been done through Connected Scotland, albeit at a slower pace than we would have liked, is promoting alternative ways to connect. The fund was announced back in 2018 to roll out digital technology to assist older people. However, it was only recently that we saw this put into action with the advent of the pandemic. I've long campaigned for better digital inclusion. What struck me most during the first lockdown was the digital divide. Many supermarkets were asking older people to book slots online, yet, as we know, 44% of over 75s don't have access to the internet, and better advice on choosing and using technology would help older people to participate in video calls and ordering food shopping, for example. And I hope the Scottish Government will consider the Red Cross recommendations in full. We need to see action now to prevent the situation worsening as we head into January and February, which undoubtedly we'll be facing a long haul until we all get vaccinated. It's not just the Red Cross who have put COVID impact reports together. Similarly, Age Scotland and Sight Scotland provided briefings for today's debate, and I want to thank them for sharing them with me. Age Scotland highlighted the situation in care homes. Care home residents have been especially impacted by limited visiting opportunities. Family members have reported seeing marked declines in their loved ones' well-being over the months, and chronic loneliness, as we know, can seriously impact on an older person's health. We were seeing things moving in the right direction with rapid testing. However, I suspect now with the Tier 4 restrictions, we'll sadly be back to a limited position. This morning on Radio Scotland, Donald McCaskill said, "We are now losing more people to the effects of isolation than the virus itself." And that, for me, was chilling to hear, and something I never thought we would hear. For those who are visually impaired, who have lost their sight, the impact is even more pronounced. Sight Scotland found 70% of those who participated said their sight loss had made lockdown a worse experience. Meanwhile, over 40% said they were still not confident about getting back into the community with social distancing measures in place. We see the picture very dramatically, but it is multidimensional. Not only have we got the issue of loneliness, but how it affects different groups and to what degree. And to conclude, Presiding Officer, that's why I want to see the Scottish Government work to provide an enhanced loneliness and social isolation strategy that pulls together the recommendations of the Red Cross and other charities and organisations. We're going to be going through a tough few months, and I just want to leave today with a message of positivity. Age Scotland said that 94,000 over 65s in Scotland say they would not have got through the pandemic without the kindness of strangers. And as we leave here today, we must look out for one another this Christmas. Check on your elderly neighbours. Let's pull through to help those less able than ourselves. And kindness and support goes a long way. But we also need the Scottish Government to step up to the mark too. Thank you.
We move to the open debate, and can I ask that speakers don't take longer than 4 minutes, please. Stuart Stevenson to be followed by David Stewart.
Thank you, Presiding Officer, and let me start by congratulating Rachel Hamilton for securing this debate and thank her for the opportunity to talk about this important subject. Today, as yesterday, as days to come, COVID-19 erodes the human spirit. Hard times are here for us all. Burden is physical, mental, and for many also spiritual. And the weight continues to bear down on us all. It's hard to accept, it's not rational and it's not chosen, but people across the planet are struggling. And it's no wonder, because COVID-19 has hammered our global society, stealing the lives of family and friends, direct, violent, destructive. To slow its rampant advice, we've been forced to adopt social distancing and other measures, necessary measures, so that we may somehow reduce or allay its destructive force. But we're a social species, and these measures come at a cost. The cost is social isolation and loneliness. And we've heard about the British Red Cross report, Lonely and Left Behind. Half of adults say reduced social contact has made life harder, and 2/3 of people say concerns about coronavirus have caused them to minimise their interactions, even where the rules permit it. And what's worse is that 2/5 of adults across the UK report they haven't had a meaningful conversation in the last fortnight. Clear signs of a deteriorating psyche and serious consequences. And for the vulnerable, even more so. Their lives are affected more than most, unable to see friends and family. Insidious force of loneliness penetrates pervasive and enduring. Confidence decays, hope begins to hollow, and well-being vanishes. We're trapped in the dark, suffering alone and under immense stress because of the simple reason we cannot hold our loved ones or have the luxury of seeing our friends. There are physical costs come with that as well as the mental costs. When someone needs support, it's in our nature to offer a hand. When others speak, we should and mostly listen. We laugh together, we cry together. Our connection is obvious, we depend on each other, and that's what gives our lives meaning, and the pandemic has shaken that. But there are solutions, we just need to innovate. Thankfully, this is happening. Vaccines are being created and new ways to connect, such as we're using today, are being developed. I join my colleague in commending the British Red Cross and the creation of a coronavirus resilient calendar. That's the kind of impressive innovation we need and that I hope will be shared with others. Let me also agree that the Red Cross are well made. I certainly believe this is a far-reaching issue. In my youth, Christmas Day was a working day, not very much different from normal days. But today, Christmas Day has become a day for family, a day for connection, and we should all do what we can to help those who are lonely and affected by this dreadful virus and by their lack of contact with human beings. Presiding Officer.
Thank you, Mr Stevenson. David Stewart, please, to be followed by Emma Harper.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. And could I also congratulate Rachel Hamilton for securing important members' debate today and for the quality and depth of her opening speech. Social isolation recognises no age, no class and no gender. As the motion describes, the British Red Cross have rightly warned about worsening loneliness and socialisation this winter, which has been brought into even sharper focus as many parts of my own region in Highlands and Islands will move from level 1 to level 4 restrictions later this week. In my early 20s, I volunteered to work with the Samaritans in my home city of Inverness, and many of the calls I answered were from desperately sad, lonely people, some of whom had physical or mental health problems, who just needed someone to speak to, a shoulder to cry on. And the challenging geographic and population demographic of the Highlands and Islands always increased the potential for loneliness and isolation within many communities, for vulnerable groups and individuals, but it'll be even a greater cause for concern this year given the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. We all know that the available evidence shows that loneliness negatively affects people's health, well-being and resilience. They're at risk of heart disease and stroke, higher levels of alcohol consumption and smoking, low physical, substantially increases the chances of dementia among older people. And as the research from British Red Cross has shown, those who feel lonely find it even more difficult to cope with the pandemic than those who are supported by friends and family. And that's why it's so important that we do everything we can do to raise awareness in our communities about what support is available. So that's why, Presiding Officer, I would like to highlight and praise the Press and Journal's excellent campaign, Connect at Christmas, supported by all party leaders to ensure as few people as possible suffer the harmful effects of loneliness this festive season. In my own region, the British Red Cross have been instrumental in supporting hundreds of people across the Highlands and Islands, with many people have been supported primarily with doorstep deliveries of emergency food parcels and medication. In addition to these doorstep deliveries, the British Red Cross have also supported NHS Highland across the whole of the Highland Health Board area, provide care homes, independent care providers and personal carers with essential PPE to keep people safe. This has included volunteers delivering PPE items to people who need it in every part of the region. Some excellent examples locally include in Dingwall and Rochester, where the British Red Cross have been working in partnership with connecting carers to support vulnerable local families and individuals, and enabling them to keep operating in a challenging environment. I mention vulnerable individuals and families in particular, as the research has shown that lockdown restrictions eased and as government guidance on children relaxed, many participants reported feeling left behind as they watched others resume their social lives. And the additional connectivity challenges in the Highlands Islands, both physical and digital, have made it even harder for the most vulnerable in society to restart their lives and connect with people again, an issue we must be alive to as we enter another stricter lockdown. And I'd like to echo earlier comments. Welcome the Scottish Government funding to help tackle loneliness and isolation. It's essential that support for local authorities and health systems is in place to identify and address those most at risk of loneliness through a dedicated fund and guidance. So I believe then, Presiding Officer, to end with an uncredited quote, that we sometimes think we want to disappear, but all we really want is to be found. We must ensure that those facing loneliness and isolation this winter get the support they're entitled to, and I would like to praise organisations such as the British Red Cross and all the volunteers who are going above and beyond to support those who need their assistance over the most challenging of winters. Thank you.
I call Emma Harper, please, to be followed by John Finney.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I'm pleased to be speaking in this morning's debate. It's unusual for us to be doing members' debate in the morning. This is the day before Christmas Eve, as Rachel Hamilton mentioned, and I congratulate Rachel Hamilton for securing the debate today. We've been discussing for many months now that 2020 has been a year unlike any other. The social, physical and mental health, and also the financial challenges that many have faced over the last 9 months have been the most difficult for everybody in our nation at this time. But throughout this time, many communities across Scotland have demonstrated great strength in their support for neighbours, frontline healthcare workers and our local producers and shops in complying with difficult and often ever-changing restrictions. I know that the community spirit and selfless attitudes that have been evidenced by complete strangers, as has been described, it's a way to help tackle social isolation and loneliness. It's something that we must retain as we emerge from the pandemic. It is welcome that there is some positive news regarding the vaccines and that the vaccine rollout is underway. And as a still registered nurse, I've been able to join the D&G vaccine team, who have been extremely professional throughout my induction and training. COVID-19 has undoubtedly had an impact on the mental health of everyone, but particularly those who are at risk of social isolation and loneliness, and those who have been identified as already isolated. This includes many people across our rural areas in Scotland, also people who are identified as in shielding category, and many in my South Scotland region are part of that as well. The impact of the pandemic has particularly affected our farmers and agricultural workers. The agricultural shows, Feed and Fries, Taste Stranraer, and even the Royal Highland Show, which allow farmers to connect with each other, even just for one single day each year, they've all been cancelled this year, and that has had an obvious impact. Two local groups that I've been working with before COVID have been working to raise awareness and tackle loneliness and isolation as well, the Farmers Choir and the D&G Retired Farmers Group. Recently, both have been keeping in touch with their members over Zoom, email and on the phone. Indeed, the Farmers Choir, they sang here in the Garden Lobby last year. They've also been supporting members of the community by helping with shopping and being a friendly voice on the other end of the phone. I was able to help the Retired Farmers Group distribute their members' newsletter by post, as it would normally be handed over face-to-face at their meetings. Presiding Officer, during the pandemic, many people across the country volunteered to help in their communities. I was able to participate with the third sector, Dumfries and Galloway, to join the telephone touch base programme. Volunteers were assigned to speak to people who had identified as being isolated, and regular appointment phone calls were made to touch base and check up to make sure that essential medical supplies and food were organised and ongoing, even just to have a blether. Third sector D&G asked whether a national network of volunteers could or should be created with the necessary funding so that this kind of volunteering in the community and to support community response could be coordinated in the future. Third Sector, D&G and Age Scotland have called for better coordination and vetting of volunteering activities by the Scottish Government, and I'd welcome any clarity from the Minister about future steps in relation to volunteers and support. I know that our intensive care units across Scotland have been using technology to connect family members outside the ICU by using video conferencing. And finally, Presiding Officer, there's so much we could talk about. I know the Government has a winter plan. I know there's a lot going on, and I'm sure the Minister will be able to widen that as well. But the message from me in conclusion is just look out for each other over Christmas and New Year, keep an eye on each other and be kind to each other over the festive period. Thank you.
We now move to John Finney, who will be followed by Sandra White.
Thank you very much indeed, Presiding Officer. And can I join with others in congratulating Rachel Hamilton and giving us the opportunity to discuss this very important issue. I think the title of the motion, Understanding the Impact, is what we should all be trying to do. And that it's damaging social isolation is very clear. And that COVID has contributed to that and had a pronounced effect on older and vulnerable people, I'm quoting from the motion here, is also the case. And social distancing led to that most certainly. I commend the work of others, the Red Cross, in tackling social isolation and improving mental health. In the last session of Parliament, I was part of the Equal Opportunities Committee that did what was understood to be the first parliamentary inquiry in the world into age and social isolation. And in the course of that, for evidence purposes, we referred to Professor Nima Hatan's definition, which was, and I quote here, social isolation could be defined as an objective, measurable state of having minimal contact with other people, such as family, friends, and the wider community. It was significant that the professor considered whilst it might be possible to measure social isolation, the feelings of loneliness and are personal and individual, and therefore more challenging to measure objectively. And in the course of that inquiry, we visited two very diverse communities. We visited the community of Easterhouse in Glasgow and also the Isle of Islay in my region. And what we found was that folk are folk. Issues are the same regardless of where you are. That it's not a matter of geography, it's not a matter of architecture. Things are very personal to us all, and no two people are the same, and the myriad of relationships we have are all different. We heard from committed individuals from across Scotland trying to highlight the issue of social isolation and loneliness and to tackle its causes. And the many briefings would confirm where we are with that. And we were also told the early steps for people who have been affected by loneliness to make connections are crucial, absolutely crucial. And commend the outstanding work by many who take these first steps. I was very taken by one of the Sight Scotland's briefing where it talked about someone who had said, and I quote, "I once bumped into someone and they shouted at me I shouldn't be out." So COVID's compounded many issues, but it's not changed those for people who already felt a bit excluded. And I think the pandemic's brought into sharp relief many of the inequalities of our society. While the crisis brought new struggles for everyone, in most cases it was those in low income and insecure work, or vulnerable for other reasons that have been highlighted, that bore and continue to bear the brunt of the virus's devastation. And those working in the essential services like care or in our supermarkets put their health at risk to make sure the rest of us could cope with the crisis. Now, like others, I want to commend the Scottish Government's recent announcement to expand the eligibility criteria for the self-isolation support grant. It's something that Scottish Greens have been very supportive of. This is, in many respects, just a microcosm of what we have already. We have the have and the have-nots, and saying gently the UK government's welfare reform doesn't help that. You're going to be social isolated if you can't afford a bus fare. You can, of course, be lonely in a crowd, and you can be content in your own. And the mental health challenges seen as part of a more holistic approach to health is very important. So, in concluding, Presiding Officer, I would like to thank all those who provided support, statutory agencies, the third sector, support groups, faith groups. There is some hope with the vaccine, and I know that all these organisations will play their part in trying to end the blight of social isolation. Thank you very much.
And the last of the open debate contributions is from Sandra White.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. Can I also thank Rachel Hamilton for securing this very important debate. I mean, I know from personal experience how difficult it's been for people and their families who have a loved one in care. And I do want to give my thanks to the staff who are doing a fantastic job in these difficult times. I also, like others, want to thank the many organisations, both professional and voluntary, who have provided help and support during this period and will, I know, continue to do so. I see the Minister, Christina McKelvey, and I must thank the Minister, for attending our cross-party group last week, which had many, many voluntary organisations and individuals there in a question and answer session, and her enthusiasm and her absolutely succinct answers to the many questions on behalf of the cross-party group. I want to give the Minister our thanks also. It was a very lively discussion, I'm sure she may refer to in her summing up. Presiding Officer, if I may, I do want to pick up on some of the issues in my own constituency and the groups that are there. The Golden Generation has already been mentioned by Rachel Hamilton. They're based in the Kelvin constituency, and they have really worked very, very hard, and they have developed a digital app, which is absolutely fantastic. And that is, it's dementia friendly, it's easy to use, and for those who have no prior experience of technology, each device comes with not just instructions set up, but very crucially important, what is offered by the organisation. And they have a team of digital champions who are trained to assist users over the phone. And one of the users gave us some fantastic feedback, and they said, I've never had a tablet computer before, it's all new to me, but it's lovely to see the familiar faces of the charity staff on the screen. Having access to the app makes me feel less alone, less isolated, and helps me keep in touch with the team, and I enjoy the activities which is put forward on the app. It gives me something to do and keeps me active during the day. So thank you very much, the Golden Generation. There are many, many other initiatives which they put forward, too many to mention in the short time that we have, but they have done 17,000 befriending phone calls, and they're made to older community members, delivered by their 50 key workers as well. The Annex Community Healthy Living Centre, in my constituencies, which I've mentioned, like others, many, many times, the stalwart staff are based in the community, and they have great support to the community. Volunteers go along, staff and visitor centre. They had opened up for meals for the older people. You booked it in. I did attend one of the meals, had a chat with the visitors there and the users and the staff too. So I do really thank them as well. Apart from that, they have actually gone beyond that also. They adapted to the restrictions which were put in place, and they went along coordinated what's called PATCH, Partick and Thornwood Community Health Scheme, delivering thousands of care packages to older and vulnerable members of the community. The support, regular telephone calls, etc., has been invaluable. And one of the things that I think we can learn from is the Annex ability to change and adapt as obviously the various measures came in. I know my time is up, Presiding Officer. That's just a small snapshot of fantastic work that's been done in my community, and I'm sure throughout Scotland as well. And thank you very much for being able to speak in this debate. Thank you, Presiding Officer.
Can I now ask Christina McKelvey to respond to the debate for up to 7 minutes, please, Minister?
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. Can I thank Rachel Hamilton for bringing the debate to Parliament today as we approach the end of this parliamentary term and what has undoubtedly been the most difficult year. Can also thank all of the members who have contributed to this morning's timely debate, and thank Sandra White for her lovely words of building up a sister just when sometimes we need a bit of building up. So I'm very grateful for that. Presiding Officer, in December 2019 I spent time with a great wee organisation in Edinburgh called Vintage Vibes. They were sending Christmas cards to older people who might be isolated or lonely. It was a humbling experience, a really fun experience, I have to say, but hearing about the positive impacts of just those small acts of kindness, a wee card with a few words in it to really build up and lighten your heart. But Christmas 2020 couldn't be any more different. Yet those small acts of kindness are even more important, and we've heard about many of them in the debate today. I've heard a lot of statistics quoted this morning from Stirling University, the British Red Cross and many others, and none of them make good reading at all. But it's absolutely crystal clear that we understand how damaging social isolation and loneliness can be. We treat it as a public health issue in Scotland. We understand why that has to be when you heard from David Stewart and the work that he does locally with the Samaritans. It absolutely breaks my heart that some older people, school children, home workers, residents in care settings, furloughed employees, unpaid carers and many, many, many more feel this way. Yet communities all over Scotland have demonstrated their hope and resilience every day over the past 10 months, and they've done that in so many different ways. We've heard many of them this morning. So whether it's the digital champions from the Golden Generation and Sandra White's Kelvin constituency, 17,000 befriending phone calls is just amazing. From standing in the street clapping our NHS heroes, knocking on neighbours' doors offering to get shopping in, countless Zoom calls, simply picking up the phone or just giving somebody a friendly wave. Like many of the groups that have been mentioned this morning by Rachel Hamilton, Stuart Stevenson, David Stewart, Emma Harper, John Finney, tackling social isolation and loneliness starts at a very important but simple place: kindness. And we've talked a lot about that this morning, but it's incredibly important, and left unchecked, loneliness can run rampant through communities, but it really doesn't have to be this way. And what really struck me was a statistic that Stuart Stevenson gave us this morning. Imagine Stuart Stevenson giving us a statistic. Who would have thought that? But he did give us a very important one this morning. 2 in 5 adults have had no meaningful connection or conversation with anyone in the last 2 weeks. That should stop us all in our tracks and make us think about the people that we see in our communities that you maybe don't say hello to, and maybe we should all endeavour to say hello to them in the next couple of weeks. But it's not just the job of government on its own to tackle this. It's important that we come together today in our Parliament to commit that each and every one of us will be kind and remember others, whether or not you think that you are coping or not. A phone call, a knock on the door might just be what someone needs. Presiding Officer, on the 11th of December, I announced details of nearly £1 million funding which was going to tackle loneliness and isolation right now. And that was part of a wider £6 million funding to promote equality, tackle social isolation and loneliness, and improve that very important aspect, digital inclusion, from our winter plan. I'll provide more details on the volunteering aspect of all of that to Emma Harper. It's another Cabinet Secretary's responsibility, but I'll get her an update on the volunteers plan because there's a lot of work going into that. Yeah, certainly.
Rachel Hamilton.
Thank Christina McKelvey for taking the intervention. With regard to the Connected Scotland strategy, can she update the Chamber on how the National Implementation Group are looking at the way we have a changing landscape during the pandemic, please?
Christina McKelvey.
Yeah, Rachel Hamilton's anticipated my next page of notes, and I will definitely come to that and give you that update. But I wanted to give you a wee insight into one of the organisations that will benefit from the funding that we have just given. Generations Working Together, who are a very key member of our National Implementation Group and our Older People's Strategic Action Forum, have been working with a high school, Bertha Park High School, to create a YouTube Christmas show by pupils, and it's for care home residents. Generations Working Together sit, as I say, on both our Older People's Strategic Framework and our National Implementation Group, and they are Scotland's intergenerational experts. And as you can tell when you see the video, please watch it. It's absolutely wonderful. It will make you feel better. And I've watched it a couple of times, but there's a poem in it by a young woman called Liliana, and the poem's called Hope. And at the end of the poem, she just says, "Embrace it, hope." And it's an excellent message, especially at Christmas, but with some hope in our vaccine coming too. The children worked so hard to learn the music, the songs, the jokes. They've participated in the show and in the full knowledge that they will brighten up the day of thousands of residents in care home settings across the country. The talent is just boundless. It's absolutely wonderful. And you have to hear Dan singing Bridge Over Troubled Water. Incredibly poignant at this point in time. Please watch it. And I'm sure Rachel Hamilton will be pleased to hear that I was delighted to meet with both Maria and Kenneth from the Red Cross on the 25th of November to hear about their recommendations and respond to the letter, and they will continue to work with us on that. It was also a pleasure to confirm, and I'm sure Emma Harper will welcome this too, what we have done to focus on loneliness in our Clear Your Head campaign. So focusing on connections, we've targeted funding to tackle isolation and loneliness throughout the pandemic, and as we head into the winter, that becomes more important. But we've also provided additional investment to tackle digital isolation, and here's me coming to the response to Rachel Hamilton's intervention. By targeting 5,000 older and disabled people in the Connected Scotland programme, you know, things like the Retired Farmers Group that Emma Harper talked about, the Farmers Choir, being able to come together digitally has been very important, and I'll be looking forward to hearing them singing in this place. And I want to tell you a wee bit about the groups who have benefited from that funding that I was talking about. But the Digital Scotland programme will be incredibly important, and 5,000 older people or disabled people being connected is a great target, but we're doing so much more. But some of the groups that are benefiting because they're incredibly diverse: Befriending Networks, Time to Live, the Scottish Men's Shed Association, the Scottish Ethnic Minority Older People's Forum, Generations Working Together, Youth Link Scotland, Chest, Heart and Stroke and their kindness calls. I've been taking part in some of them. The BMIS, or the Ethnic Minority Resilience Network, Intercultural Youth Scotland, MECOP, LGBT Health and Wellbeing, Glasgow Disability Alliance, the National Support for Learning Disability, British Deaf Association, Deafblind Scotland, and money going to support families who are separated because parents are maybe in prison over this point in time. One thing I want to quickly touch on, Presiding Officer, before I finish up, is one of the pieces of research that came out yesterday from the House of Commons Library tells us that overall the cost to older people of not having their TV licence this year is about £40 million, and I would hope the UK Government at Christmas, especially when people are facing loneliness, will overturn that decision on the TV licence. Presiding Officer, it's doubly cruel as we ask people to stay at home whilst they battle a global pandemic, and I would really hope the UK Government will do better. Keeping connected to others is important, and today's debate has shone a light on that, as John Finney's told us. The priority is a priority of mine, of this Government, hopefully of this Parliament, and I'm very proud that we have come together today, the day before Christmas Eve. I wish you all a safe, happy and very connected festive period. Thank you.
That concludes the debate on understanding the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on loneliness and social isolation. And we'll move on to the next item of business.